HOA enforcement, open up right now, the voice boomed, slicing through the morning stillness like a sudden storm. It possessed a depth and authority far removed from trivial matters like landscaping or mailbox aesthetics. On the stoop of number 48 Willow Creek Lane, 3 men stood clad in matching navy blue tactical vests, the stark white letters HOA Enforcement emblazoned across their backs in bold block capitals designed to be read from a considerable distance. However, these men weren't armed with clipboards, nor were they offering cheerful greetings with informational brochures. Instead, they were equipped with tactical belts, heavy-duty boots, and short-barreled rifles slung across their chests. Their mirrored sunglasses cast back the sunlight and the tranquil surroundings, reflecting like shards of cold steel. Inside, Lisa Walker sat in her wheelchair, positioned near the front window. The morning light caught her hazel eyes, lending them a sharp intensity. She'd worn uniforms herself, a former Navy SEAL, forever marked by that commitment. That was before Afghanistan, before the improvised explosive device that had claimed her legs but left her intellect as keen as ever. The interior air was comfortably warm, scented with freshly brewed coffee. The gentle gurgling of the drip coffee maker provided a stark contrast to the unfolding drama outside. At the dining table, 2 tall, broad-shouldered men halted their discussion mid-sentence. Jack and Matt Walker, Lisa's younger twin brothers, exchanged a meaningful glance, a look forged through years of shared peril. "This feels wrong," Matt stated, rising slowly and deliberately. Jack shifted, instinctively positioning himself between Lisa and the door. Another forceful impact vibrated through the wooden structure, rattling the glass panes. "Last warning," a voice commanded. "Open the door or we will force entry." Lisa's voice remained steady. "Step away from the door, both of you." They didn't comply, not out of defiance, but from ingrained instinct. SEAL training ran deep in this family, and the twins had witnessed enough of the world to recognize genuine threats. Danger rarely announced itself so overtly unless it was poised to strike. Through the frosted glass, the indistinct outline of a substantial figure materialized. The sunlight illuminated the bold white lettering on his back. To an ordinary homeowner, it might have appeared official. To the Walkers, it screamed of pretense. Jack raised his voice. "This is private property. State your purpose or depart." "Save it," came the sharp, impatient reply. "You have a backlog of HOA violations. We're here to ensure compliance." Lisa's brow furrowed. She had resided here for over 10 years. While the Homeowners Association had its regulations, some minor, some sensible, they certainly didn't dispatch armed individuals to collect overdue landscaping fees. This was pure intimidation, a theatrical display. Her voice returned firm and clear. "Identify yourselves. Provide names, badges, and the name of your HOA president." Silence followed, broken only by the sound of boots shifting on the porch. Then, a distinct metallic click, the sound of a rifle's safety being disengaged. Jack moved towards the side window, parting the curtain a mere inch. Parked in the driveway was a black SUV, its engine idling, windows tinted. No official municipal plates, no HOA markings. Matt's jaw tightened. "Lisa, those aren't HOA." The doorknob rattled violently. "Step away from the door immediately," the voice outside barked. Lisa's hands tightened on her wheelchair's armrests, her tone cool and measured. "You are trespassing. Leave within 10 seconds or I will contact the sheriff's department." The man outside chuckled, a low, humorless sound. "Go ahead." It wasn't the laugh of someone concerned about legal repercussions. The twins' breathing slowed, becoming deliberate. Their shoulders relaxed slightly, a posture familiar to fighters preparing for engagement. The porch floorboards creaked under shifting weight. The black SUV's exhaust fumes dissipated into the still air. Distantly, a dog barked twice before falling silent. Then, a deafening roar. The doorframe disintegrated inward, the deadbolt splintering the wood. Daylight streamed through, silhouetting 3 figures in that falsely authoritative blue. Jack's voice thundered, "Wrong house." The door hadn't simply opened, it had been obliterated. Hinges groaned, the frame split, and the morning air surged in, carrying the metallic scent of gun oil. 3 men crossed the threshold, their boots striking the hardwood with deliberate heavy steps. The sun glinted off the bold HOA enforcement lettering across their backs, but up close, the stitching was irregular, indicative of cheap work on expensive jackets. Their rifles hung low, held at the ready, each man's trigger finger resting just beside the guard. Lisa's wheelchair occupied the center of the living room, framed by the window's light. She remained motionless, her posture impeccable, shoulders back, chin level, eyes fixed on the intruders. Years of rigorous training had eradicated any natural instinct to flinch. Jack moved first, stepping forward to shield her from view, his 6'2" frame casting a long shadow across the room. "You have approximately 2 seconds to explain yourselves," he stated, his voice deep and steady. The lead man, a burly individual with a shaved head, smirked. "You've been ignoring notices, trash cans left out, lawn over 3 inches tall, Christmas lights up past January. We enforce the rules around here." Matt's brow furrowed, a slow, dangerous expression settling on his face. Even with rifles brandished, the smirk didn't falter. Sometimes people require persuasion. From her chair, Lisa's voice was like ice. "You're not here about trash cans." The lead man's gaze flickered to her, assessing. "Lady, I don't need to explain myself." Jack's eyes scanned his surroundings with the precision of his SEAL training. He noted the subtle bulge beneath the man's jacket at his left hip, the military-style wristwatch, the faint tattoo partially concealed by a glove cuff. This was no HOA. It wasn't even close. Matt angled slightly, effectively blocking the path toward the kitchen. The twins' positioning was subtle, yet deliberate, channeling the intruders into the narrowest part of the room. The second man, tall and lean, surveyed the house with restless eyes. "Where is your compliance paperwork? We'll need to examine it." Lisa's hand inched towards the control for her wheelchair. The faint whir of its motor briefly broke the palpable tension. "And I'll require your identification." The tall man's lips curled into a sneer. "You really think you're in a position to demand that?" It wasn't the sound of a rifle safety this time. It was the distinct flick of Matt's thumb opening the retention strap on the knife sheath at his belt. The small movement was casual, almost languid, but his eyes never left the men. The third intruder, stocky and jittery, shifted his weight, his right hand twitching towards his rifle. Jack's voice dropped an octave. "Don't!" For a suspended moment, the room seemed to hold its breath. Outside, the black SUV's engine continued its low idle, its muffled growl a reminder of the potential threat waiting beyond the porch. Lisa broke the silence. "You have one final opportunity to depart my residence. After that, you will be explaining yourselves to the sheriff's deputies." The lead man laughed, a loud, forced sound, like a bully attempting to assert dominance. "We are the law in this neighborhood." That pronouncement was a critical misstep. Jack took a slow step forward, halving the distance between them. His voice was almost conversational, yet laced with an unyielding resolve. "You are standing in a SEAL's residence, 2 of them in fact, and you are threatening our sister. Now, what do you suppose happens next?" The tall man's jaw worked, but no words emerged. The stocky one swallowed hard. Even the lead man's smirk faltered, revealing a fleeting flicker of doubt. Matt's stance shifted, his knees slightly bent, his weight balanced. He didn't need to speak. His entire demeanor communicated, "We've faced situations like this before, and you will not like the outcome." A faint breeze from the open doorway stirred the curtain. Somewhere outside, the SUV's engine revved, a short, sharp burst like a signal. Lisa's voice cut through the air again, calm but razor sharp. "Did you hear that? That's your transport getting anxious. I suggest you take the hint." The 3 intruders exchanged furtive glances. The lead man's eyes narrowed. "We'll be back." Jack offered a smile, devoid of warmth. "We'll be waiting." They retreated towards the doorway, rifles held angled downwards but still ready, and stepped out into the bright sunlight. The rear door of the SUV swung open. They climbed in without further word, and the vehicle rolled slowly down the street, its tires crunching over the gravel shoulder. Inside, a heavy silence descended. Matt secured the shattered door as best he could, the frame hanging precariously. Lisa exhaled slowly. They are testing us. Next time, it will be more than just words. Jack nodded once. Next time, we will be prepared. The black SUV continued its journey down the street, its darkly tinted windows absorbing the morning sun. The hum of its engine faded, replaced by the low sigh of the coastal wind. Yet, in Jack's mind, the sound lingered, a tangible threat emanating from a vehicle. Matt retrieved his phone from his pocket and snapped a quick photograph through the damaged doorway. License plate, make, model, he muttered. He zoomed in, frowning. No front plate. Rear plate looks suspect. Likely stolen. Lisa spun her wheelchair toward the small desk in the corner where her laptop sat. She was already logging in before Jack had even turned around. I'll run it through the county database, she stated. If they were foolish enough to use a legitimate plate, we'll find out. Jack crouched beside the broken doorframe, his fingertips tracing the jagged edges of the splintered wood. They didn't breach the door just to intimidate us. This was a reconnaissance mission. Matt nodded, assessing the response time, determining who was present. And they did not appreciate what they discovered. From the street, a faint glint caught Jack's attention. He stood and stepped out onto the porch. Across the road, parked beneath the shade of a sycamore tree, sat a silver sedan. The driver's silhouette shifted almost imperceptibly, too deliberate to be casual. Jack tilted his head towards Matt without averting his gaze from the car. We have company. Matt joined him, scanning the street. Could be a lookout? Could be backup? His tone was flat, but his right hand rested near the concealed holster at his hip. Inside, Lisa's voice called out, Plate's not in the system. Completely untraceable. The silver sedan's engine coughed to life. It rolled slowly past the house. The driver's face was obscured by large sunglasses, but Jack caught a detail, the faint white reflection of an earpiece wire curling into the man's collar. They're coordinated, Jack murmured. Not HOA, not even amateur law enforcement. This is organized. Matt's jaw tightened. Which means someone is funding them. Lisa wheeled to the doorway, her eyes sharp. I know someone who might recognize them. Give me that photo. She took Matt's phone, her fingers flying across the keyboard. If they've approached anyone else in the county, it will be in the reports. Jack's attention returned to the road. We need eyes on the neighborhood. If they're casing houses, we'll identify a pattern. Matt cracked a faint grin. Already on it. He produced a small black case from his backpack. Inside were 2 compact drones, silent, swift, and equipped with camera resolution capable of reading a business card from 50 yards. Within minutes, one drone was airborne, drifting high above the tree line. The other zipped low between rooftops, its camera feeding live video to Matt's phone. From the screen, they observed the black SUV parked 2 blocks away. The 3 men disembarked, joined by a 4th who had been waiting. They clustered around the tailgate, engaged in conversation. One of them retrieved a large, rolled-up paper from a tube. Matt froze the feed and zoomed in. Blueprints. Lisa leaned over the screen. That's the neighborhood layout, and that is our house. The paper was marked with red circles. 4 houses in total, all on the same street. Jack recognized one immediately. Mrs. Carter's residence, 3 doors down. Widowed. In her late 70s. Always alone. They're targeting the vulnerable, Jack stated, his voice low. Lisa's expression darkened. They believe I'm on that list. The SUV crew reloaded the blueprints into the tube, then split. 2 men entered the SUV, the other 2 the silver sedan. Both vehicles departed in opposite directions. Matt brought the drone back, landing it silently on the porch. They'll return, but not tonight. They'll wait for the opportune moment. Jack nodded. Then, we will provide them with a moment they are not prepared for. Lisa's voice was calm, but an undercurrent of steel was present. You're contemplating a counteroffensive. I'm thinking, Jack said, meeting her gaze. We make them regret choosing this street. Outside, the wind shifted, carrying the scent of salt water and something else. something faintly metallic. Trouble was palpable in the air, and the twins could sense it. The house was quiet now, but it was not a peaceful quiet. It was the stillness preceding a tempest. Jack stood in the kitchen, studying the map Lisa had displayed on her laptop. The 4 red-circled houses glowed on the screen like open wounds. "These are not random selections," Lisa stated, pointing at the cluster. "Observe, each is situated at the end of a street with limited escape routes, easily blockaded." Matt leaned against the counter, sipping cold coffee as if it were whiskey. "They desire control. In and out before any assistance can be summoned. A textbook intimidation operation?" Jack's eyes narrowed. "Or an extraction. If they seek something specific within, they will isolate the target first." Lisa tapped her screen. "Mrs. Carter is alone. No immediate family. Then there are the Petersons. He requires oxygen. She is recovering from surgery, and the Millers are out of town until next week. That leaves me." The room fell silent for a beat. "You are the bait," Matt observed, almost approvingly. Lisa's chin lifted. "I am also a witness. They will not leave me alive if I perceive too much." Jack's hand clenched into a fist on the table. "Not going to happen," he declared, turning to his brother. "We've fortified the house. Cameras inside and out. Motion sensors. Silent alarms directed to our phones." Matt smirked. "And perhaps a few surprises they will not anticipate." From the hall closet, they retrieved 2 battered duffel bags, remnants of another life. Matt unzipped his and produced a compact night vision headset, a pair of tactical gloves, and a roll of black duct tape. Jack's bag revealed a collapsible grappling hook, a portable jammer, and what suspiciously resembled a smoke grenade. Lisa raised an eyebrow. "I suspect these are not standard HOA-approved items." "Let's just say," Matt replied, "the Navy never took them back." While Lisa monitored neighborhood security cameras via her laptop, the twins moved through the house with military precision. Jack installed miniature pinhole cameras beneath the porch eaves and within the hallway light fixtures. Matt threaded thin fishing line across the side yard at shin height, invisible in the darkness. "Trip line?" Lisa inquired when she observed him. "Trip and alert," Matt explained. "If they trigger it, we know their exact location, and they won't understand why they've taken a tumble." In the backyard, Jack tested the jammer. A low hum filled the air for a second, and every phone within range lost its signal. 60-foot radius, he reported. Perfect for disrupting their communications if they attempt coordination. By dusk, the residence had been transformed into a fortress disguised as a quiet suburban home. Dinner was consumed in silence, the clinking of forks on plates the only audible sound. Outside, streetlights flickered on one by one, casting long shadows across the pavement. Jack sat at the table, meticulously cleaning the action on his sidearm. When they return, they will expect an easy acquisition. We will provide them with noise, confusion, and no viable escape. Matt's grin was wolfish. "I propose we allow them to enter before we secure the exit behind them." Lisa looked between them, a flicker of unease in her eyes. "Just do not undertake any actions that could result in your incarceration." "Lisa," Jack said, his voice low but steady, "these individuals will not be contacting the authorities if we resist. They are not supposed to exist." For a moment, the 3 of them sat together in the dim kitchen, the air heavy with unspoken truths. Jack's mind briefly drifted to desert nights under black skies, the scent of gun oil, the profound silence preceding a mission. He had believed those days were long past. He had been mistaken. A vibration from Lisa's laptop jolted him back to the present. She swiveled the screen. "Look at this. Corner of Maple and 3rd. The silver sedan has been parked for over an hour. Same individual with the earpiece." Matt pushed back his chair. "They are already here." Jack stood, securing his holster into place. "Then let us offer them a proper welcome." Outside, the coastal wind had intensified, carrying the faint tang of approaching rain. Somewhere in the darkness, engines idled, and the street seemed to hold its breath. The night had settled deeply over the neighborhood, enveloping the streets in a heavy, expectant silence. In Lisa's living room, the sole illumination emanated from a single lamp near the couch, its glow soft enough to appear casual, yet bright enough to silhouette a figure for anyone observing from outside. Lisa sat there, a book in her hand, but her eyes were not on the pages. She was listening, counting the seconds between each distant passing car. Jack and Matt were shadows in the hallway, concealed from view of the windows, each equipped with an earpiece linked to Lisa's phone feed. Every camera they had strategically planted was streaming silently to their devices. At 10:43 p.m., the first alert blinked onto Jack's screen. "Side yard motion sensor." Matt's whisper cut through the earpiece. "They're here." Lisa's fingers tightened around the book. "Where?" Jack scanned the feed. A dark figure in a blue jacket, bold white letters across the back. HOA Enforcement was crouched near the side fence, a small flashlight held between his teeth. "Left perimeter," Jack murmured, moving cautiously. Matt checked another camera. "Two more at the rear fence, same jackets, they're fanning out." Lisa swallowed hard. "That's 4 in total." "5, Jack corrected, switching feeds. "One across the street in the sedan. Driver is stationary." Outside, the wind carried the faint creak of the fence gate opening. The trip line at shin height emitted the softest ting, barely audible. Matt grinned. "Got him." The camera captured the moment. A quick stumble, a muffled curse. The man regained his balance but glanced around nervously. Jack touched his earpiece. "Allow them inside." Lisa's eyes widened. "What?" Matt leaned close to her. "We want them comfortable. We want them to believe they are in control before we shift the dynamics." The first intruder reached the back porch and tested the handle. Locked. He produced a thin tool from his pocket, jimmied the latch, and slid the door open an inch. Inside, Jack had already extinguished the kitchen lights. The man stepped in, his silhouette visible in the faint glow from the living room. He froze, listening. That's when the jammer activated. The man's earpiece crackled, then went dead. Outside, the others attempted to use their radios. Static. Confusion spread like a ripple effect. The intruder took one cautious step forward, and Matt moved. Silent as a shadow, he materialized in the doorway behind the man, one arm hooking his neck, the other twisting his wrist until the lockpick clattered to the floor. A soft grunt, the shuffle of boots. Then, silence again. Matt gently lowered the man to the ground, zip-tying his wrists before dragging him into the darkened laundry room. Meanwhile, Jack slipped through the kitchen towards the side door. Another figure was halfway inside, scanning the dimly lit hallway. Jack allowed him to step forward, one step, then another, before pressing the muzzle of his sidearm against the man's ribs. "Do not move," he whispered. The man froze. Jack relieved him of his flashlight, radio, and a slim, curved blade. "Now, we are going for a little walk." By the time Lisa looked up from the couch, Matt had joined Jack, each holding an intruder by the arm. She kept her voice steady. "You brought them inside." Jack's eyes were cold. "Safer in here than outside where their associates can observe." On the cameras, 2 more figures hesitated in the yard, whispering urgently to each other. The driver in the sedan had exited the vehicle, pacing, a phone to his ear. Matt glanced at Jack. "Think they've figured it out yet?" "Not until it's too late," Jack replied. He looked at Lisa. "Get ready. This is merely the initial phase." Outside, the wind rattled the branches. The remaining men began moving towards the house, more cautiously now, but still advancing. The trap was functioning. Outside, the last 3 men in blue jackets huddled near the back fence. Their voices were low, urgent. One pointed towards the porch, another towards the side gate. They had lost radio contact. 2 of their team hadn't checked in, and the driver kept pacing near the sedan, glancing over his shoulder like a man who knew trouble was close. Inside, Jack and Matt stood still, listening. They could hear the faint scrape of boots on wood, the creak of a hinge. Matt's eyes flicked toward the kitchen window. "They're splitting up," he murmured. Jack nodded. Classic pincer. Let's break it. Lisa's pulse thudded in her ears. You're not going out there, but they were already moving. Jack slid into the garage, slipping out the side door into the shadows of the driveway. Matt crouched low, easing through the back porch like smoke. The first intruder came from the side gate, stepping slow, scanning the yard. He held a collapsible baton in one hand, flashlight in the other. He never saw Jack until a forearm locked across his throat and yanked him backward into the dark. The baton dropped to the gravel with a dull clink. No shout, no warning, just silence. Matt, meanwhile, ghosted along the fence line. The second man was halfway to the porch when a pebble skittered across the patio. He turned toward the sound. Too late. Matt's shoulder slammed into his ribs, driving him hard against the wall. Air exploded from the man's lungs as his flashlight spun away into the grass. The third intruder, taller, broader, heard the scuffle and rushed in, but Matt pivoted, dragging the winded man into his path. They collided in a tangle of limbs, giving Matt just enough time to sweep the bigger man's legs and send him crashing onto the deckboards. From the driveway came a muffled thud as Jack secured his man with a flex cuff. He reappeared seconds later, moving fast, eyes locked on Matt's position. The two brothers worked without words now, just quick glances and subtle gestures. 2 decades of military training compressed into a dance of precision. The bigger man tried to rise, but Jack dropped to one knee, pinning him with an armbar while Matt zip-tied the other's wrists. The smaller one groaned, still catching his breath from the body blow. From across the street, the driver finally realized something was wrong. Very wrong. He ran toward the fence, phone in hand, shouting. Matt straightened, eyes narrowing. He's calling for backup. Jack's voice was cold. Not going to happen. Before the man could reach the gate, Jack was already moving low and fast, his boots silent on the grass. The driver barely had time to register the shadow barreling toward him before his phone was snatched clean from his grip and tossed into the gutter. Jack stepped in close, his voice a deadly whisper. Game's over. The man froze, breathing hard, sweat cutting lines down his face. One by one, the brothers herded the captives toward the side of the house. 6 in total now, hands bound, jackets streaked with dirt, eyes wide with the realization that they just tangled with the wrong family. Lisa stepped out onto the porch, wheelchair gliding over the threshold. She looked at them, these so-called enforcers who'd come in the night, and let out a slow breath. Matt spoke first. What do you want to do with them? Jack didn't answer right away. His gaze swept the yard, the street beyond, as if weighing options, not just for tonight, but for the days ahead. Finally, he looked at Lisa. Your call. Her voice was steady now, stronger than it had been in days. I say we make sure they don't forget this house or this family. The wind shifted, carrying the smell of rain. Somewhere far off, thunder rolled. The night wasn't over yet. The 6 men stood in a crooked line against the side of the house, wrists bound with flex cuffs, backs pressed to the siding. Their blue jackets, once crisp with the bold white letters, HOA Enforcement, were now smeared with dirt and streaked from the wet grass. Jack and Matt flanked them like sentinels, their presence alone enough to keep the group still. No shouting, no threats, just a quiet, deliberate silence that felt heavier than any barked order. Lisa rolled forward in her chair, the porch light casting her in a warm glow that contrasted sharply with the cold night. The metallic click of her wheels on the deckboards was the only sound for a few seconds. I want to hear it from you, she began, her voice calm but cutting. Why did you come to my house in the dark? Why didn't you knock like decent men? The tallest of the group, still breathing hard from his earlier takedown, finally spoke. We were sent. The board. Lisa's gaze sharpened. The board told you to trespass, to harass a disabled woman in her own home. The man's eyes flicked to the ground. It was just an order. Matt cut in, his voice low and steady. Orders don't excuse bad choices. You had 6 chances to stop yourselves before you stepped onto this porch. One of the younger men shifted uneasily. We didn't know. Jack's tone was like steel. You didn't care to know. He stepped closer, scanning their faces one by one. "Do you have any idea who you picked a fight with?" No one answered. The tension in the air was thick enough to taste. Lisa leaned forward in her chair. "My brothers served this country. They've been to places where the law barely exists, where danger hides in every shadow, and they came home to protect me. Not from terrorists, not from criminals, but from men in matching jackets who think they can bully their way through a neighborhood." A distant rumble of thunder rolled across the sky, punctuating her words. Matt broke the silence. "Here's how this is going to go. You're going to take a message back to your bosses. Tell them this house is off limits. No more letters, no more late-night visits, no more intimidation. Or next time, we won't be so polite." The youngest of the group swallowed hard. "Are you going to call the cops?" Jack smirked, but there was no humor in it. "You think the sheriff would be on your side in this?" Lisa's eyes flickered with something between pride and amusement. "The sheriff is on my side." It took a moment for the words to sink in. Then several heads turned toward her, faces blanching. Jack leaned in, his voice barely above a whisper. "You've been barking up the wrong tree. And now you've woken something you can't handle." He and Matt moved in unison, cutting the flex cuffs one by one, but not freeing the men from the weight of the warning that now hung over them. As each man rubbed his wrists, Matt pointed toward the street. "Leave the jackets. You walk out of here as just men, not enforcers. This uniform doesn't belong in our neighborhood anymore." Reluctantly, one by one, they shrugged out of the blue coats and let them drop onto the wet grass. The bold white letters looked smaller now, almost pathetic under the porch light. Lisa watched them file down the driveway, stripped of both authority and illusion. When the last man disappeared into the dark, Jack bent down and picked up one of the jackets, holding it like a trophy. "They'll think twice before coming back." Matt nodded, his eyes scanning the empty street. "But they will come back. People like that always do." Lisa's voice was steady. "Then we'll be ready." The wind shifted again, cooler now, carrying the scent of rain. Somewhere in the distance a dog barked, and the night seemed to settle, at least for the moment. But inside the house, all three knew this was just the first battle. The war with the HOA had only begun. The neighborhood was still too. Still. Hours had passed since the 6 men disappeared into the night, their blue jackets abandoned in the wet grass. The porch light still burned, casting a pale circle of safety on the front steps. Lisa sat by the living room window, her wheelchair angled toward the street. The rain had come and gone, leaving the asphalt slick and reflective. Now it glistened under the dim glow of the street lamps, empty of movement. Jack moved quietly through the house, checking each lock, each curtain. "All secure," he said, but his voice carried no relief. Matt was at the kitchen table, dismantling and cleaning the sidearm he'd kept holstered all evening. "They'll tell the board what happened," he said, sliding the barrel free. "And the board won't take it well." Lisa kept her eyes on the window. "Good. Let them know we're not afraid." Jack joined them, dropping one of the confiscated HOA jackets onto the table. "Fear isn't the point. They're going to come back. Not because they think they can win, but because they can't stand losing." Matt nodded, reassembling the pistol with methodical precision. "And people like that, they don't fight fair." A sudden humil, the low growl of an engine in the distance. Lisa's head tilted slightly, listening. The sound grew louder, then faded again, never passing the house. "Circling," Jack muttered. Matt's eyes narrowed. "Scouting." The quiet stretched again. But it wasn't the comforting quiet of peace. It was the coiled, waiting quiet of something plotting. By morning, the jackets were gone from the lawn. Someone had taken them in the night. No note, no sign of who it was, just the damp imprint left in the grass. Lisa wheeled herself to the end of the driveway, her brothers on either side. She scanned the street, every parked car, every drawn curtain. The normal suburban calm looked different now, less friendly, more like a stage where hidden actors were waiting for their cue. "They're watching us," Lisa said. "They've been watching since the moment they stepped on this property," Jack replied. Matt bent down, picking up a small object near the mailbox, a cigarette butt, fresh, still warm. "They were here not long ago," he said, his tone flat. Jack's jaw tightened. "They want us to know they were here." Later that afternoon, Lisa's phone buzzed with an unknown number. She didn't answer, but the voicemail came through seconds later. The voice was calm, almost pleasant. "We don't want trouble, Lisa, but rules are rules. We'll be seeing you soon." She replayed it twice before showing her brothers. Matt's knuckles widened. That wasn't a warning. That was a promise. Jack took the phone, saved the message, and slipped it into his pocket. "We hold on to this proof. Leverage." Lisa's eyes hardened. "And when they come back," Jack looked toward the window, scanning the street again. "Then we stopped playing defense." That night, the three of them sat around the kitchen table. A map of the neighborhood spread out in front of them. Matt marked the likely vantage points: the cul-de-sac entrance, the tall hedge across the street, the utility pole by the corner. "They'll try something subtle next," he said. "Not a direct confrontation. Sabotage, isolation, make us look like the problem." Lisa tapped the table with her finger. "Then we get ahead of them. Cameras, lights, eyes everywhere," Jack added. "And we make sure every neighbor knows what happened here. Bullies lose power when everyone's watching." They spoke in low voices until midnight, the hum of the refrigerator the only other sound. Outside, the street remained quiet, but the feeling of being watched never lifted. Somewhere in the dark, someone was planning their next move, and in this neighborhood, war was no longer a figure of speech. It began so small, so ordinary, that most people wouldn't have noticed, but Lisa's brothers noticed. The morning after their long night of planning, Jack stepped outside to find the mailbox door hanging open. Inside, the daily paper was soaked through, pages pulped into an unreadable mess. The mail itself, gone. Matt checked the security camera footage. The street was dark, but at 3:17 a.m., a figure in a hoodie approached the mailbox, opened it, and lingered for several seconds before slipping something into their pocket. No face, no license plate, just a shadow moving with purpose. "They're testing our response time," Matt said. Lisa wheeled up beside them, her eyes sharp and sending a message. "They want us to feel it first thing in the morning." Jack closed the mailbox with a snap. "We're not playing their game." But the game had already begun. By noon, Lisa's phone buzzed again. This time, a text from a neighbor she barely knew. "Hey, I heard the HOA is concerned about you violating multiple rules. Is everything okay?" Lisa read it twice before showing her brothers. Multiple rules? What rules? That same afternoon, two other neighbors stopped mid-stride when passing her house, whispering behind their hands before moving on quickly. Matt's jaw tightened. They're planting seeds. If enough people believe it, they don't have to prove anything. Jack stood at the window, watching the slow trickle of pedestrians and parked cars that hadn't been there before. Surveillance, social pressure, classic intimidation tactic. Lisa's fingers tapped to the armrest of her wheelchair. Then we need to control the story before they do. That night, the first real act of sabotage came. Matt had gone to take out the trash when he noticed a sharp smell near the garage. Chemical sour. He followed it to the back fence where a dark stain bled into the grass. A closer look revealed the source. A gallon jug of weed killer upturned and empty, its contents soaking into the roots of Lisa's carefully tended rose bushes. Deliberate, Matt muttered. Jack crouched beside him, examining the splash pattern. They didn't just pour it, they aim for the roots. Whoever did this knows exactly what they're killing. Lisa, when told, said nothing at first. She just looked out at the garden she had spent years building, her expression unreadable. Then quietly, "They think this will break me." The next morning brought something new. Anonymous flyers, stuffed into mailboxes and pinned to the community board. They were neatly typed with the HOA logo at the top and claimed that Lisa's property was in violation of safety codes and presenting a hazard to community aesthetics. No one had signed them. "They're fake," Jack said, holding one up to the light. "Not even printed on official paper." Matt tapped the logo. "Doesn't matter. People will believe it because they want to believe it. Lisa leaned forward. Then we make sure everyone sees the truth. We hit them with facts, not fear. By evening, the brothers had installed 2 more security cameras, floodlights at the driveway, and motion sensors by the back fence, but as they worked, they both felt the same unease. The sense that every move they made was being watched. Across the street, a car sat idling for 20 minutes, headlights off. When Jack stepped toward it, the engine roared to life and it drove away without a word. Matt said, "They're keeping distance now, waiting to see if we'll slip up." Jack replied, "We won't, but we're going to make them slip." That night, Lisa rolled up to the kitchen table, where her brothers were studying the fake flyer again. "They're escalating," she said. "Yes," Jack agreed. "And they're going to push until one of us makes the wrong move." Matt leaned forward, his voice low. "Then maybe it's time we push back first." The 3 of them sat in silence for a long moment, the air thick with the unspoken truth. The first strike had been made, and it would not be the last. Somewhere in the darkness, the HOA was smiling for now. The storm outside had calmed, but inside the Walker house, the air was charged with a different kind of electricity. Lisa sat at the dining table, the soft lamplight casting a warm halo over her determined face. Across from her, Jack and Matt leaned in, the quiet hum of the refrigerator, the only sound between words. "This isn't just about us anymore," Lisa said, her voice steady. "If they've done this to me, they've done it to others. We're not just defending our home. We're drawing a line for everyone they've steamrolled." Jack nodded, his jaw tight. "Then we need to change the rules of engagement. We stop reacting and start setting the tempo." It began with a plan. Not a Navy SEAL raid, not yet, but a campaign of patience and precision. Matt brought out a legal pad and sketched 3 columns: evidence, allies, leverage. "First," he said, tapping the page, "we collect proof of every violation they've made. Every threat, every intimidation, cameras, recordings, witness statements, nothing sloppy." Lisa slid a small USB drive across the table. "Already started. That's yesterday's encounter. Full audio plus the neighbor's ring cam footage. You can see the HOA enforcement clowns shoving past the property line." Jack allowed himself a rare grin. "Good. We'll feed this into a timeline. Show a pattern of harassment. That's Exhibit A." The next step was quieter, more dangerous. They reached out to neighbors. Not everyone, just the ones they trusted. Mrs. Carter, the retired schoolteacher whose front garden had been bulldozed over a violation. The Martins, who'd been fined into near bankruptcy for repainting their porch without approval. Each conversation was held in kitchens and living rooms, voices low, blinds drawn. And each time, the brothers felt the shift, anger turning into resolve. By the end of the week, they had a small network. Not soldiers in uniform, but people with stories, documents, and a reason to push back. While Lisa coordinated the outreach, Jack and Matt played their other card, public opinion. They contacted a local reporter known for digging into small-town scandals. Over coffee at a diner, Matt slid a manila envelope across the table. Inside was a copy of the footage, witness statements, and the HOA's own contradictory bylaws. "This isn't just a dispute," Matt told him. "It's a racket hiding behind official-looking jackets and clipboards." The reporter's eyes narrowed, a slow smile forming. "If half of this checks out, you're looking at a front-page expose." Meanwhile, Lisa made a call to an old contact from her service days, a pro bono lawyer who'd handled veterans' rights cases. She explained step by step the harassment, the trespassing, the false authority. "You've got them on at least 3 counts. The lawyer said, "If they push again, let them. Every move they make from now on is a nail in their own coffin." It wasn't without risk. The brothers knew they were poking the bear, and the bear, cornered, might come out swinging harder than before. But that night, as the 3 of them sat together, Lisa in her chair, Jack with his arms folded, Matt nursing a cup of black coffee, there was something new in the room. Not fear, not even anger. It was momentum. The tide was turning, and for the first time, the HOA bullies didn't control the clock. The morning, started deceptively quiet. A pale sun broke through the clouds, casting long shadows across the Walker property. Lisa sipped her coffee at the kitchen counter, her eyes drifting to the window. Something in the air felt off. Out on the street, a white van slowed to a crawl, stopping 2 houses down. Then another. Within minutes, 2 HOA trucks, plain white with HOA enforcement plastered in bold navy letters, rolled up in front of her driveway. Jack was already by the door when the first knock came. Loud, aggressive, deliberate, bang, bang, bang. HOA! Enforcement, open up now, a voice barked. Matt stood beside him, calm but coiled. That's not a compliance check, he muttered. That's an intimidation raid. Jack cracked the door just enough to see them. 6 men in the same blue jackets, hands on their belts like they were cops. Behind them, the HOA president, Greg Martin, stood smirking, sunglasses reflecting the morning light. "We're here to conduct a property inspection," Greg said, his voice dripping with fake authority. "Refusal will result in fines, and you step 1 foot on this property, you'll be trespassing," Jack cut in, his voice steady but loud enough for the cameras, both theirs and the ones Lisa had hidden, to catch every word. Greg smirked wider. "We'll see about that." He nodded, and 2 men moved forward. That's when the plan kicked in. From the side yard, Mrs. Carter appeared, phone in hand, recording from across the street. The Martins, now united rather than endangered, turned their own recording devices toward the unfolding situation. "Give the camera a smile," Mrs. Carter announced loudly. "They always enjoy a segment showcasing the misuse of authority." Greg's wry expression faltered almost imperceptibly. Internally, Lisa signaled for assistance, tapping her earpiece. "They're on our property without permission. Dispatch a sheriff's unit immediately," she instructed into the microphone. Although their pro bono legal counsel had provided a direct emergency contact, the Homeowners Association enforcement team continued their advance. One of them casually crossed the property line, brushing past the mailbox. Matt reacted with remarkable speed, not making physical contact, but effectively impeding the man's progress. His stance, a testament to his extensive Navy SEAL background, projected an undeniable physical presence. His voice, though quiet and conversational, held an undeniable gravity. "You need to step back now." The individual paused, seeking direction from Greg, who made an impatient gesture. At that moment, the wail of sirens pierced the air. 2 patrol cars, lights flashing, screeched to a halt. The HOA enforcers froze. From the leading vehicle emerged Deputy Rodriguez, a commanding figure partially obscured by mirrored sunglasses. "What appears to be the issue here?" he inquired, his tone measured but carrying an underlying firmness. Greg visibly composed himself, attempting an appearance of compliance. "This is internal HOA business. We are acting within our rights to conduct an inspection." Deputy Rodriguez raised a hand to halt further discussion. "Unless you possess a court-issued warrant, you have absolutely no legal standing to enter this private property. Consequently, your presence here constitutes trespassing." Jack observed the color drain from Greg's face. A gathering of concerned neighbors began to materialize, their hushed discussions and raised cell phones broadcasting the unfolding events in real time. Matt shifted, creating an unobstructed path for the HOA team to depart. "You've heard the deputy. Kindly vacate the premises." Greg attempted a show of defiance. "This isn't concluded. You believe you can stop us?" Lisa, moving her wheelchair into the doorway, interjected with a sharp, decisive tone. "No, Greg. You can't conceal your actions behind a fabricated authority indefinitely. Today you've revealed your true nature to the entire community." The deputy then addressed Greg directly. "I strongly advise you to depart before I am compelled to issue citations." The tense confrontation dissolved. One by one, the men in matching blue jackets retreated, conspicuously avoiding the filming cameras. Greg hesitated for a moment, his jaw clenched, before finally following suit. As the vehicles departed, the assembled crowd offered a subdued but evident display of approval, a quiet round of applause conveying palpable satisfaction. Inside the house, Jack secured the door and let out a deep breath. Matt leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Lisa offered a subtle, knowing smile. We haven't just achieved victory today, we've laid the groundwork for what comes next. Jack nodded, already contemplating their strategy. Indeed, now we complete this. 3 days later, the HOA office buzzed with an unexpected energy, though not related to official business. Greg Martin sat at his desk, his gaze fixed on the front page of the local newspaper. A photograph of his scowling face, captured mid-grimace, was prominently displayed beneath the headline, HOA Abuse Ignites Community Fury. The accompanying article meticulously chronicled every transgression, the spurious inspections, the harassment directed at a resident with a disability, and the illegal trespassing. Even the footage captured by Mrs. Carter's mobile device had achieved widespread recognition, going viral on social media platforms. Neighbors had shared it numerous times, and local news outlets had quickly incorporated it into their reports. For the first time, Greg apprehended that his role had shifted. He was no longer the pursuer, but the pursued. At the Walker residence, the atmosphere was noticeably more optimistic, although a sense of victory had not yet fully settled. Jack sat at the dining table, his laptop open, reviewing incoming correspondence. We've received offers from 3 attorneys willing to represent us on a pro bono basis, he informed Lisa. One of them is already in the process of drafting a civil harassment lawsuit. Lisa beamed, her eyes alight with renewed hope. That sounds most promising. Matt entered from the backyard, carrying a substantial folder filled with printed screenshots. The evidence compilation is ready, he announced. Every threat, every written notice, every bogus citation they've issued since last year. We'll deliver this directly to the sheriff's department and the attorney. Lisa maneuvered her wheelchair closer, placing a hand on the folder. This isn't solely for my vindication. It represents a stand for every neighbor they've subjected to intimidation. The following week culminated in a town hall meeting unlike any the HOA had previously experienced. The community center parking lot was completely full. Inside, folding chairs were arranged shoulder to shoulder, and a low hum of anticipation filled the space. At the front of the room, Greg sat flanked by 2 other HOA board members. His formerly assured smirk had vanished, replaced by a tense, tightly pursed-lipped expression. The meeting commenced, but before Greg could address the assembly, Mrs. Carter rose and spoke directly to the attendees. We have all witnessed the video, she declared, her voice resonating through the hall. We are all aware of what transpired with Lisa Walker. This board has acted beyond the bounds of the law and basic human decency. A wave of assent rippled through the crowd. Another resident stood, holding aloft a copy of the county newspaper. You have brought shame upon this community. You have placed us all at risk of legal repercussions and increased insurance costs. Enough is enough. Jack then rose, his presence commanding immediate attention. This situation concludes this evening. We are calling for an immediate vote to remove the current board and conduct new elections. The HOA's legal counsel, seated to the side, attempted to interject. That item is not on the established agenda. However, Matt stepped forward, his voice calm, yet unwavering. We possess the requisite signatures to initiate a special vote at this precise moment, and you are fully aware of the bylaws. Majority rules. The attorney hesitated, then reluctantly resumed his seat. Hands were raised throughout the room, one after another, until nearly every resident had cast a vote in favor of the board's removal. Greg's face had turned ashen by the time the final tally was announced. It was over. 2 months elapsed, and the HOA found itself under entirely new leadership. Greg and his associates were not only facing civil litigation, but also criminal charges for trespassing and harassment. The county had initiated a thorough investigation into the misappropriation of HOA funds, and whispers suggested that Greg might be facing a custodial sentence. Lisa's situation had become a local benchmark for resistance against the abuse of power. Her name and her quiet fortitude were referenced in civic council discussions, church gatherings, and even at the local Veterans Hall. One cool autumn afternoon, Jack, Matt, and Lisa were seated on the front porch. The air carried a subtle scent of burning wood, and the street was peaceful, punctuated only by the distant sounds of children playing. Matt shifted back in his chair. "It feels different now," he observed. Lisa smiled. "It feels liberated." Jack took a sip of his coffee, his gaze sweeping across the street. "They assumed they could intimidate us. They overlooked a crucial detail. We do not retreat." The three sat in comfortable silence for a brief interval, observing the sun's descent. The worst was behind them, and the bond they shared had only deepened. Lisa glanced at her brothers and softly remarked, "It seems the Navy SEALs truly do make excellent neighbors." Their laughter, light and unburdened, drifted into the evening air. And somewhere, within the town, Greg Martin opened his mailbox to discover the first of what would be numerous court summonses, his own new chapter, penned by those he had underestimated and attempted to crush. Justice, at long last, had found its way.